Okay, so we're good to go. Welcome, everybody. It's our monthly call with Unlocking Your $1 Million Mindset. And this is proudly brought to you by Zango University. And, you know, it's interesting. I am one of those students, as you all are, of CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And the more I read and the more I listen to the other accomplished masters who charge not just hundreds of dollars, but sometimes thousands of dollars, and their primary focus is mindset. Whether you're in traditional business or you're in our wonderful profession of direct sales and network marketing. So we do these calls once a month, as I said, and they are recorded. And my name is Sandi Cohen, and my sweetie and I have been involved with Zango literally since day one. It's actually November the 4th will be our 13th anniversary, not to each other, but Eddie and I with Zango. And it's been a magical ride. And I so vividly recall when we first got started that all we had was a 6-page fax. So when you look at the records that have been set by Zango this first decade, or this first wave as it's referred to, we've actually set the foundation for the next bigger wave of success stories. And the second wave, historically, because if you ever want to predict the future, just look at the past, the second wave is always bigger than the first. So you're listening either live or to a recording because you want change in your life. And it doesn't matter what that change is, because, you know, I think the magic number is when you turn 40 years old, you begin to realize that a good percentage of the quality of your life is already behind you. And it's sad, with the crash of the economy, 2007, 2008, how many people have no hope of recovery. They're underwater in their houses if they haven't lost them. Bankruptcies, they've lost their job. And tonight, with Robert Kiyosaki's new book, The Change, my 4 co-hosts and myself will share with you, pretty scary, that we're not done, this horror of our economic crisis. And if the prophecy and predictions are right, we're going to have another even bigger storm very much ahead of us. So here's my question. If you predicted, if you knew, if you had a crystal ball and you could have predicted the crash that was going to happen in 2007, 2008, if you knew 3 years in advance of that, if you knew it was coming, what would you have done to prepare yourself? Think about that. And we're in the same situation, a critical situation right now, especially for those of us that are baby boomers. So we're going to contribute to your mindset, because the subconscious mind actually controls our behavior. It has brought you to where you are today. And I'm probably older than most of you on this call. And I can tell you this, we all have stuff that happens in our lives. In fact, when we woke up one day and we were 52 years old and $450,000 in debt from the sale of our business, that buyers defaulted, and we ended up in an 8-year nightmare in the court system in Philadelphia, which is one of the worst in the country. And we were dead broke, and $450,000 in debt in spite of winning. So what do you do? How do you climb out of that mess? And our subconscious mind, if you look at the slide, the subconscious mind knows that life is difficult. And someone gifted me a book 21 years ago by Dr. Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled. And the very first chapter, it might have even been the very first page, he made a statement that sort of hit me on the side of the head. It said, life is difficult. We all have obstacles. Where you end up is how you handle those obstacles. But a lot of how we handle those obstacles are based on our subconscious mind, what has happened to us in the past. So our job is to help you overcome the negativity of the past and help you to know beyond a shadow of a doubt and believe that you can accomplish anything. And it's interesting, if you check out some of the gurus and the masters, they charge for these types of calls, these group calls, anywhere from $395 to thousands of dollars for an 8 or 12-week session. Group session, not one-on-one coaching. We're talking about a group session, and our leaders in our Zango family do this for the most amazing price, $0. Absolutely free, because our compensation plan and our culture has been always to help people elevate to the next rank so they can all participate in all of the global bonus pools, which now, with all the enhancements, even starts from day one that you join our Zango team. So just be committed to constant and never-ending improvement. And I'm starting right after this call. I'll be posting in our Facebook group, which I'll show you the link later, a massive action plan. It's October, what is it, the 29th of the month? My goodness, I don't know where this year went, but it seems the older we get, the faster it goes. But are you where you thought you would be at this time? And most people are not. So we're going to be doing what I call a MAP, a massive action plan for the rest of this year, and then carrying over into January of 2016. Because what we do right now, starting today, over the next 60 to 90 days, will set you up for massive success in 2016. So tonight, we are just delighted to share with you Robert Kiyosaki's newest book, Second Chance. Look at that title, For Your Money and Your Life. So what you have to ask yourself is, what do you really want? And what are you willing to sacrifice to get it done? This is not hype. This is not lies. This is become a true believer that anything is possible if you increase your skills and go into massive action. And when I tell you that everyone is a little fearful when they've never done something before or they haven't done it successfully before, but I can tell you this, if you plug in and get a little uncomfortable, and if you want huge success, get very uncomfortable doing stuff you've never, ever done before. Because I know when I was in school, which was maybe before most of you were born, I mean, we were taught to just get good grades, get the good education, and get a great job with benefits. Now, to me, education is not optional. Everyone should get the best education they can. But we were really never taught about money and how to save and how to invest and how to be an entrepreneur or a solo entrepreneur. And some of us just intuitively know that's our goal, that's our dream, to be in total control of both our time and our finances. I mean, if you're working a job, a job, do you wait for your 2 or 3 weeks vacation a year? What if there's a reason that you need to be with family or an ailing parent for a month or two? Could you do that? One of my partner's spouse died, and I just got on a plane and spent the week with her. I didn't have to ask anybody. And my commission checks, the weekly, the monthly, still went into the bank account. So if you dream of having a life like that, then you must increase your skills. You must increase your belief, because your paycheck is going to be directly proportionate to your skills and your belief. Now, my very good friend, our first co-host, and I must tell you, first of all, thank you, emerging leaders, for stepping up. Because if you've been immersed in reading and listening to the masters and what they have to teach, we learn best by doing. We learn best by teaching others. So everybody that's co-hosting is doing an amazing job as leaders or emerging leaders. And the November curriculum is already up. And I would love to see 4 or 5 brand new people get uncomfortable to do something that they've never done before. Now, being on a call like this is not as scary as standing in a convention center in front of 8 or 10,000 people. You can pretend this is just you're talking on the phone to a dear friend. And I hope we did not lose the screen, because it looks like the internet did disconnect after all. But we're going to keep going. So let me do a proper introduction of my good friend, Joaria. Now, Joaria, that smile, oh my goodness, she just lights up a room. She was born in Brooklyn, New York. So what that means is that we actually have an East Coast connection. There's something about East Coast people. But she grew up in Alabama. Huge family, 9 brothers and sisters, and married to her best friend, David, and has 2 great, talented stepchildren. And she has a bachelor's in psychology that she acquired in 1995, but became very frustrated and disillusioned with the whole system and how people were treated. And she then worked in customer service for a checking company and became the manager within a year and worked there for 7 long years until, guess what happened? The company closed. And she immediately got her certified driver's license, and yes, she's on the road with her sweetheart as a truck driver now for 9 years. And her goal is to get out of that truck and back into a home-based business. So, Joe, are you with us?
Yes, Sandy, can you hear me?
I can't hear you, Joe.
Oh, no. Hold on.
No, can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
I love it when you say that. Get off the truck and have a home base. I know that's right.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. It just gives me goosebumps. I love it.
Right?
That's our goal, man. Our goal, man. I tell you. I'm so excited. I'm even nervous because it's Robert Kiyosaki. This is like major. You know, Robert is just, he's incredible. It was just, I was so overwhelmed when I saw him on stage. And this book is, I'm going to start with a little of the good stuff before getting into all the rough stuff, because it can get a little depressing if you don't have the right mindset, right? So, you know, what I love is that he says, you know, we can learn financial education. We can learn about money. This is not something that we can't learn. We can get smarter about the subject. And this means that if you're poor or middle class, you can become richer, right? And this is why we do what we do. We're learning, we're growing, and we know this is true. So that's the good news, right? And you know, as he goes into explaining why we lack, you know, what the problem is. We lack financial education. And because of this, many mistakes have been made, not just by the government, but its own citizens, by, you know, people, regular folks. Just a lack of understanding of what's really going on. And then he explains that new money, knowledge is the new money. and that the monetary system has replaced the whips and shackles, which is really like, whoa, when you think about it. But when you realize what has happened through taxes, inflation, and through basically people getting ripped off through their savings and the banks making money off of their money, more than they do, and not getting an increase in your income, but everything else is rising, you start to realize, wait a minute, yeah, if you're a slave to a paycheck, yeah, that's really true. And then he goes on to discuss two types of rich. And I'm so glad that he, really explained this. And it helps us to understand what happened in 2007, because he says there's a true rich and the asset rich. True asset rich, and then the millionaire next door rich. The asset rich, the true rich, they own land, property, precious metals, natural resources. These are things that basically aren't going to just be taken away from them. The millionaire next door rich in 2007, that is where a lot of people went from being a millionaire to basically a bum. They lost everything through stock and bonds. Some of them were lawyers, doctors, corporate executives. Companies closed. And we kind of saw a precursor of this not too long after 9/11 with the dot-com boom. And so a lot of companies closed in Silicon Valley, and so that was a mess. But we didn't realize that was just a little shake before the earthquake, which hasn't really come yet, right? And then in 2007, we had what I knew at the time was a depression. I kept hearing recession. I'm like, no, this is not recession. I read enough about the depression. My dad is 88 years old. He grew up during the depression. It just didn't quite look like what we understood or know as the Great Depression. Long soup lines and long bread lines, and people starving of. It doesn't look like that. But at this point, we have 43 million people on food stamps. So that means they're not making enough money to feed themselves. That's a lot of people. And personally, I have an aunt. She lost all of her savings after many years of saving. This is why the rich don't save. They don't go through savings. They put their money into natural resources, precious metals, and different things. But she lost all her savings, and she has not recovered to this point. She was major in the fashion industry and traveled all over the world, so it's not like she didn't work hard or didn't have talent. It's simply, not understanding. Many of us did not understand the risk people were taking with 401ks and still are, and with the stocks and bonds and things of that sort. So that's always a shakeup. It's a gamble. Then as we moved on, in 2007, we had this subprime mortgage bubble, which really just, I tell you, I was doing the truck driving thing, and trucks came to a complete stop, literally. There were shipments not going out. There were people hanging out at truck stops for almost 2 weeks hungry. This is how bad it got. I know a lot of people may not have understood, they knew from their personal perspective in 2007 what they were experiencing. But there were people who weren't getting paychecks. There were stores who couldn't pay their employees. And it was quite a shakeup. The housing prices crashed. People started using their credit cards because, they didn't have money. And, if you don't get your paycheck, how else you're going to eat? How else you're going to live? And as long as a homeowner feels poor, the economy will suffer. So if you maxed out your credit cards and you never paid your credit cards off and you lost your job, which, like the company I worked for, the checking company, it closed and shut down. And there have been many other companies that have shut, I can't tell you the number of trucking companies that went out of business in 2007, 2008. They just disappeared and were basically gobbled up by the bigger trucking companies. And this happened with even stores and other things. So if we think back, we kind of remember certain stores that shut down and things of that sort. So, this is what has happened. And once people max out their credit cards and now they don't even make enough to pay it off, or as the other issue that we're having is many who go into debt for higher education, which I truly believe in, just as you do, Sandy. I mean, I think that's not an option. People should be educated, but go into debt and then get out of college and can't find a job. So between parents with maxed out credit cards and then students with high student loans and high interest rates and can't get out of that debt and can't find work, we're really in a situation. 43 million, we have 43 million people who are renters, 25 million who own their houses free and clear. 24 million are upside down in their homes, which basically tells you they're going to be more than likely losing their homes. So that's not the direction that we want to go. And the other thing we're looking at right now is what are we expecting, right? That is the point of the book, what to expect and to be prepared for. In the past, we had the Great Depression between 1929 to 1954. Germany had the hyperinflation, 1918 to 1924. The difference between our Great Depression and Germany's Great Depression is the fact that Germany kept printing money. And that's kind of what we've been doing for the last few years. So if you want to know what the future holds, you just basically can look at the past and expect, know what to expect. One of the things he said is that humans have been trying to control and oppress other humans from the beginning of time. I'm glad he made that point so that we don't feel like this is just a special time or a special situation in which people of our time seem to be controlling or manipulating the money markets or manipulating financial education. It's just something that some humans do in regards to feeling like they have to manipulate so that they can have more. But, that's what I love about the business that we're in. We all win, and we all understand that by helping one another, we all come up, we all become better, and there's no loss in that, and that's beautiful. And we must, again, look at the past in order to know what we should expect in the future. So I'm kind of rushing through this. I do want to hear everybody else. I've missed everybody, and I can't wait to hear the other speakers in regards to what they've taken from the chapters.
Oh, thank you, Joe. And, sometimes I have to read a chapter or a section more than once. And hearing it more than once, repetition is the key. And I'm not sure if, Vivian's saying the slides are not showing, and I don't know why. I went to so much work to actually snag the charts from the book.
Yeah, I saw you had the charts with the food stamps and the Social Security and all of it. I saw that, yeah.
All there, and I don't know where it went or what happened.
Yeah.
So we're going to move forward regardless, and maybe while our next dear friend and partner will be speaking, I'll play a little bit with, and I hope I don't lose everyone, but next is our good friend Jean Marie Bianco, and Jean Marie is quite a unique lady, and she did such gorgeous slides. Oh my gosh, her slides were absolutely magnificent. So, Jean Marie, you're going to be flying with no slides, and somehow I create a miracle without disconnecting this call. But let me tell you a little bit about Jean Marie. I love her name. It sounds so French and so sexy. She is a single human touch marketer in our Zango family, mom of 3, a grandmother of 8, and can you believe she's a great grandmother of 3, and also from New York, East Coast, so we've got lots of energy in common, and she's been open-minded about optimal wellness and nutrition for decades, with a focus and belief in alternative products as an option to the dangerous drugs, and her passion is helping and training others so they too can be educated how to live longer, healthier, and at the same time either get free product or actually save huge on their monthly income taxes. that everybody should know by now, by having a part-time home-based business, even if you're not profitable, as long as you're spending 5 to 7 hours a week, you have huge tax benefits every single month. So if you're not yet involved in our Zango family, when you wake up in the morning, take a $20 bill, preferably a new one, and open your window, roll down your window on your way to work and just throw it out the window. And then do that every day. Just keep throwing it out the window until you join the team. So, Jean Marie, are you with me?
I am, Sandy.
Awesome, sweetheart. Yeah, speak up just a little bit more, and then I'm going to try to be playing while you're talking with this screen sharing tool. And, Tom, if you know a secret to how to bring it back, text it to me. Okay, over to you, Jean.
Okay, thank you, Sandy, for this opportunity. I'm really proud and honored to be on the call with the leaders tonight to present Chapter 2 for Second Choice. And I heard about Dr. Fuller and read Jonathan Siegel's years ago. And as Zango says, the time's now to start taking it seriously. 1948, Dr. Richard Buckminster, Bucky Fuller, created the geodesic dome, which was chosen as a design for the United States Pavilion at the Expo in Montreal in 1967, and it still stands. Robert Kiyosaki and another student hitchhiked to Montreal to see Fuller, who is an inventor, designer, and poet-futurist. He was born cross-eyed, twice kicked out of Harvard, was a heavy drinker, suicidal after his daughter's death, and then decided to commit himself to bettering mankind through a design revolution. Fuller was one of the century's most original minds. He freelances talents, solved problems of human shelter, nutrition, transportation, environmental pollution, decreasing world resources, and developed over 2,000 patents in the process. His Dymaxing car was at the Chicago World Fair in '88. He published more than 30 books, and he even was on a United States Post Office stamp in 2003. And Robert's father, Poor Dad, first introduced Robert to Dr. Fuller. And in '64, Robert attended a week at Lake Tahoe, California, at a conference called The Future of Business, as he was interested in how Fuller predicted the future. So he wanted to use the knowledge and make more money. And Robert was behind a video camera, looked up directly at Bucky with a wave of energy went through him, and he felt his heart open and began to cry with tears of gratitude for this man's courage to do what he'd been doing, which was guiding and teaching and looking into the future. I didn't realize that John Denver's song was recorded, What One Man Can Do, was for Dr. Fuller. And Robert feels that the tribute that John gave to the song best describes the experience that he could have ever done with his own words. Dr. Fuller even was an inspiration of John's life and was a contributor to the WinStar Foundation. I feel what one man can do is not just about Buckminster's Fuller. It's also about Zango. The song says it's hard to tell the truth when no one wants to listen, when no one really cares what's going on. And I feel we too have those who don't want to listen regarding our products and those who don't really care what's going on. And the next line, when you need someone beside you, your spirit and faith, they must be strong. And I feel our faith can stay strong in Zango because of the leadership we receive from all organizations. What one man can do is dream. What one man can do is love. Joe's always talking about being safe to dream. And without his dream and without him being in Thailand, we wouldn't be where we are today, and I wouldn't be as healthy as I am today. All of us wouldn't be. And we can do in love not only the business, but for humanity, for those on drugs and using products with chemicals. And as we know, many are becoming obese and unhealthy for their own reasons, medical reasons, food, and we really are in the right place. And make young again. Here you see what one man can do. It's the last line. And we can change the world with our products we have, and we can make those interested looking young again now and being healthier. Fuller touched Robert's heart, and he knew sex, drugs, rock and roll, and money were coming to an end. And he kept asking himself purposeful questions, which is great questions for us all to ask. What can I do to make the world a better place? What am I doing with my life? In '89, Robert was 34 years old. He'd gone to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in New York. He had a Bachelor of Science degree, third mate license to sail an oil tanker. He'd gone to U.S. Navy flight school and learned how to fly professionally. He was well educated, however, his program, even though he had all these products in JCPenney, Tower Records, Spencer gift stores with concerts for bands, his problem was he had met Bucky Fuller and was always thinking about what he experienced in Montreal. And then he went to the Dome and he met Dr. Fuller, and at that time his life really began to change again. He no longer wanted the nightlife and listening to John Denver's music. His thinking began in his heart, which I can relate from seminars of John Denver's music, because straight from the heart, and it does go to the heart, at least it has to mine. And after meeting Dr. Fuller, Robert realized he was looking at spiritual professional, spiritual work, spiritual job, and life's purposes. And I too have been on the same path, realizing my life purpose, especially getting the word out about chemicals and products. In some ways, I think that's more than making a pretty face. We need to be helping our children, and a lot of chemicals in our products that has to be changed. In 1981 to 83, he studied with Mr. Fuller on 3 different occasions, and he learned mind mapping, which is the method of using color and sketches rather than words. And in 84, he knew he had to make changes, and Robert decided to let go of what he loved doing so that he could do what he was supposed to do. At this time, Robert reread the book Jonathan Living Seagull, which is written by Richard Bach, and I found it a profound book back in the 80s, and I think I'm going to read it again as well. Jonathan is a seagull which finds his passion learning everything he can about flying and becoming an outcast. And as we all know, network marketing certainly is a way to be an outcast rather than a job. Jonathan continued to learn and was happy with himself and his abilities as he led a peaceful and happy life. And he started realizing he was 1 in a million bird. And he became successful, and through all the reading, Robert learned that sometime a person needs to let go and let the currents of life carry them to where they're supposed to go, and take a leap of faith into the unknown. And this I find easy sometimes, and other times I find it very difficult. And as well as Denver's song, here too is a book of one bird, or what one man can do. In 1984, he met Kim, and in 1984 they took their leap of faith into the unknown. The journey for Kiyosaki's were much like Jonathan's. The lessons had been passion for flight, learn everything you can, which I think all this is network marketing. Become pleased with your ability, have the freedom to be yourself, your true self, and let nothing stand in our way. In 86, Robert was invited to John Denver's WinStar Foundation to speak that John was hosting in Aspen. But when he got up to speak, he didn't speak on rock and roll business unprepared. He began speaking on education and learning, the pain that he went through in school and being forced to study subjects he wasn't interested in, about his emotional pain of failing English twice in school, and about kids' spirits being crushed in traditional process of learning. He then asked them to close their eyes and listen to Whitney Houston's Greatest Love of All, which too is a profound song because of the children they are our future. And I too have experienced listening to this song with gratitude and courage. In 1994, Robert sold his business to his partners, and Kim reached 37, Robert reached 47. They achieved financial freedom without jobs, without government support, and without a retirement plan. They achieved financial freedom by Say It is beginning to their second chance. And they followed one of Buckminster's generalized principle that is true in all cases, no exception, beginning their new business, the Rich Dad Company, with a generalized principle, which I think is a profound statement. The more people I serve, the more effective I become. And Robert's beauty of second chances are we have as many chances as we need or want without any limit. They say the sky's the limit. We each have the power to choose to pursue a second chance. The more we learn, the more we are aware of changing the world. And we certainly have the products to do it. And better are our odds of succeeding because we commit to a second chance. Fuller was in the Time magazine in 1964. His last book was published after his death in 1983. It was the only book to focus on the many things that Robert's rich dad was concerned about, which is the monetary system is designed to steal our wealth. And Robert knew he had to do something. Seek a second chance, understanding what Dr. Fuller's book is called The Grunch of Giants, and his thoughts on the future and what he saw is essential to creating a brighter future for us and our family.
Outstanding, Jean Marie, as Marilyn just stated. You know, it's interesting, and I did not realize this, but when Robert Kiyosaki decided to write the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because his prophecies were so doom and gloom. I mean, nobody believed that there was going to be, as he predicted, the fall of Wall Street, the real estate crash. Nobody would publish his book. Nobody. And he ended up self-publishing the book to become, I think, the longest New York Times bestseller book ever. So think about your dream. Are you going to let obstacles get in your way of getting what you want? Because if you believe hard enough and big enough and do the actions and activities, we are all destined to live our dreams. So again, Jean Marie, thank you. I don't know how I figured out I had to use 2 different browsers to bring the slides back, but hopefully everybody is seeing them now, and I just hope I didn't lose the recording when I lost the slides. So thank you for contributing so beautifully, and I know that you're learning a lot as you are also teaching, and that's really the purpose of all of these sessions. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Now, our next co-host is someone who I've known, oh my goodness, quite a while, Tessa. I remember meeting you in Missouri when we flew to do meetings for Ron and Marlene Bryce. And I'll never forget, your color is obviously red. And this could be 10 years ago. You were wearing this fabulous red outfit. And I was saying, boy, this is one hot lady. Obviously, I'm very fashion focused. But Tessa's chapter is, titled, What Can I Do? And a little bit of, and I'm looking for your bio, and I have it somewhere. Just an amazing woman, entrepreneur, hugely successful in her community. She was the proud owner of what's equivalent to like Whole Foods chain stores, and sold it. Of course, she got paid. We didn't. And forgive me, I can't find the details of the bio because I had it out earlier today. But just an amazing friend to everyone on her team, an amazing mentor. She is as sweet as her smile, and like us, came from traditional business, which is so different, employees, inventory, receivables, payables, monster headaches. She now has a thriving home-based business, working on being in every country that we're in, which is 43 countries at this point in time. So, Tessa, I'm not going to waste any more of your valuable time. So go ahead and share with everyone your Chapter 3 on Kiyosaki's Second Chance, and I'll mute myself out.
Okay, and it's what can I do? And that question is really very good for all of us. And thank you, Sandy, thank you for all that you do, being the leader you are. This is why we're all here, because we have a leader like Sandy. So this is my understanding of from this book of Robert and his rich dad taught him about the money, assets, and words. His rich dad taught him about money, assets, and words, and Bucky was his other teacher. Actually, Buckmaster Fuller was his mentor, or he considered him his mentor, and he learned so much from him. And actually, that was a turning point in his life when he met him. He was a huge fan and mentee of Buckmaster Fuller, and who said, Bucky said, I just invent, then wait until man comes around to needing what I've invented. And this was in a previous chapter, but that he had 2,000 patents. 2,000 patents, one of the most prolific inventors of all time. His ability to predict the future and his vision of the future had to do with God's view of the future. Although he was hesitant to use God, and he used the term the Great Spirit. Fuller believed that the Great Spirit wanted all humans to be rich. And I'll agree with him on that that we should all be rich. And Fuller predicted that humanity has reached a critical evolutionary point. He said, if humans did not evolve from greed and selfishness to generosity and abundance, humans, as an experiment on Earth, would end. So a quote from Bucky said, the more people I serve, the more effective I become. And actually, this is Django's, it's safe to dream again. The more people I serve, the more effective I become. And that, I would hope that this sinks into every single person, because it's so true. Who can I serve today? And that's really one of the things I say every day. Who can I serve? Put them on my path so that I may serve them. And that is what adds joy to life. Robert said that his book, The Second Chance, was based on Bucky's generalized principle. And he does his best to follow it when making business decisions. What a great thing. I'm referring to Zango, and most of the people that I've met are the same way. Who may I serve? They all have a servant's heart. In 1994, and Jean Marie had just said this, when he and his wife developed the cash flow game and developed the cash flow club. And there are now millions of people using this game. It is a free online, by the way, if anybody wants to go. online and get it. And there are thousands of clubs. And look at what one person's impact. Actually, Bucky and his rich dad influenced him, and then he went forth. And that's what it's all about. When we learn, we go forth and we teach others, and we help and encourage. After the game, he wrote the book in 1997, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He said the turning point of his life and the knowledge of the book was in 2000 when Oprah invited him to be on her show. He said that hour changed his life. So this is one thing can make a change in one thing. I think that if we get up and keep continuing to serve, and who can we serve? When we do one more thing, just like Robert did, he stopped what he was doing, had the courage to do that, just as we need the courage to go forth. For instance, in Sandy's new contest or promotion to us. So getting back to this, Robert explained that Bucky died July 1st, 1983, and he said the news so overwhelmed him that he pulled over to the side of the road when he heard the news, and he cried. At that moment, he felt that he was given a second chance, and that was to become an entrepreneur in education. And he mentions that Bucky's book came out a few months later, and it's called The Grunch of Giants. And Grunch stands for Growth Universal Cash Heist. And it refers to how the rich and powerful steal our wealth via our money, government, and banking systems. And here's a quote from Grunch. Every child is born a genius, but is swiftly de-geniused by unwitting humans and or physically unfavorable environmental factors. So the question is asked, why don't I feel smart? Why don't I find my genius? And the answer, they said, is because most people go from home to school to work, environments that are not always the right environment for their genius to bloom. Many spend their life unfulfilled, untested, unappreciated, simply because they did not find the right environment in which their genius could blossom. That is really thought-provoking, and I think it's really good for all of us to think about that environment and the environments that we can create and that we're creating through this call, actually. Robert said the book Grunch raised more questions than any time in his life, and he wanted to be a student again. So Fuller described how the rich and powerful use money, banks, government, politicians, military leaders, and the educational system to implement their plans. Simply said, money is designed to keep people slaves to money, enslaved to those who control the monetary system. Robert said, for those of you considering a second chance with your money and your life, you may want to ask yourself, how can I serve more people, rather than how can I make more money? If you ask the above question, how can I serve more people, you are following the generalized principles of God. And there you are.
Terrific, Tessa. And, you know, it's amazing how we are all in alignment with what you just said. We are servants at heart. We serve others. And it's not every day you wake up and say, who am I going to recruit today? Instead, who can I serve and fill their needs? And by asking the right questions, then you know if there is a need to be filled. But when Robert decided way back when, decades ago, to be an entrepreneur in education, we are all entrepreneurs in educating people how to live longer, healthier. We're not in the business of recruiting people. We're in the business of sharing information so they can make a choice. They can make a choice that they want to live longer but healthier. So again, thank you so much, Tessa, for
my pleasure.
doing such a great job. Okay, next is a friend of ours, Carol and Tom Ferrier. We actually go back almost 20 years, I think, Tom, when we moved to Phoenix. And we met Eileen Cohen, and then met Tolly, and then met you guys. So we definitely have a history. And Tom and Carol are 200K Select premiers in Zango. And if you're a brand new or a guest, it means they've done a lot. They've accomplished a lot by helping a lot of other people. And they're members of the multi-million-dollar club. But life was not always this sweet. And they just recently celebrated their 43rd wedding anniversary, and that's to each other, not cumulative. And the first 30 years prior to Zango, I remember those stories oh too well, Tom. You were in the HVAC business and living in Phoenix when it's 113 in the shade. You were on roofs in that heat fixing air conditioning units. So their first 30 years were not the ideal life, and then along came Zango, and they were pretty negative about network marketing based on their past. But like so many of us, we surely found the right direction, and they became students of personal development, mentorship, learning, and they were willing to change because they really did want their life to be different. And now they've got friendships literally all over the world. They control both their time and their money and travel to places that they only dreamed of years ago. And the best part is Zango pays for most of it. So, yep, as Tom says, Zango is the right vehicle to place trust, energy, and time so we can all achieve our life's goals. So, Tom, I'm going to mute myself out and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I appreciate you hosting this call today. And thank you, Joe and Jean Marie and Tessa for reviewing those first three chapters. You know, I found that those first three chapters were sort of a good foundation. And then, you know, chapter 4 came along, and it got a little tougher to go through. I really enjoyed reading these first 4 chapters, and I've already moved into 5 also, but it's been an interesting journey. I'm not a big reader. I pick up a lot of books, but I never finish them. And so I can see myself really finishing this and absorbing all that he says. And after meeting Robert at our Rush convention a few months ago, I sort of understand now a lot better of why he talked the way he talked. It's because, you know, he sees all these things that are going on, and he talks about that in chapter 4 a lot. And so I want to back up just a moment to what Tessa talked about in chapter 3, this grunge of giants. And just so we remember what that word grunge stands for, it's gross, universal, cash heist. And then she said it refers to how the rich and powerful steal our wealth via our money, government, and banking system. Well, in this chapter 4, it talks about what is a heist. The heist is spread across all levels within our society. Money and ignorance do not discriminate. Wow. You know, and I've seen that, you know, being on this planet as long as I have, I see that happen. You know, a neighbor that's doing horribly and a neighbor that's doing good, a coworker that's doing good and a coworker that's doing bad. We see it all over in every area that we step into. And the next statement was their wealth. And folks, it's your wealth is being stolen via your work, your savings, and investments in the stock market. And, you know, a lot of these things I didn't even realize before reading this chapter. And, you know, I sort of got a little aggravated, probably like Robert, you know, shared at his presentation at Rush Convention. He understood already what's going on in the world, and I'm just starting to learn. And so I'm being very coachable here, and really wanting to learn. Carol and I stayed up till 3-something last night talking about this book. This is good stuff. I told her I'm not even doing it justice to what he shared, but as Robert started in this chapter, he talked about the injustice is financial ignorance. And then a few pages later, he says it a little different. The lack of financial education is the injustice. I like it, both statements. It made a lot of sense to me. You know, it made me realize my financial education was horribly poor. Horribly poor. You know, my wife and I talked about different people that we've met in our 43 years of marriage and why some seem, you know, we don't know, but they seem successful, or why they didn't seem successful. You know, we have good friends that had a multi-billion-dollar company down in Phoenix in 07, 08 before that crash, and it's gone. It's closed down. I don't even know how he survived, but he continues to prosper because he understands more about finance than just regular people. But so I'm very excited to learn about financial education. The person and then he talked about the person who signs paychecks has the power to enslave another person's body, mind, and soul. And I thought back to when I signed the paycheck. And you know what? I had that attitude too. I controlled them being there at a job. I controlled, you know, when they could leave, when they could go on vacation, when they could go to lunch. I controlled all those things. I had no idea that it was body, mind, and soul, as Robert points out. But it was awesome to realize that this is what's going on. You know, so many of us used words that disempower, and I've used all these. I've been weak, I've been confused, I've been fearful, I've been angry. But reading this and understanding what Robert's talking about, we're going to be overcomers in those areas if we just follow the instructions. He's written an instruction manual. All we have to do is follow it. Millions struggle financially because we refer to our liabilities as assets. I did that. I thought, wow, my house is great. We have a nice large home. That's part of my assets. I didn't know it wasn't. So knowledge is power, and knowledge begins with words, and here's the cool part, words are free. So we can learn these things. We can absorb these concepts and the ideas that he's put in this book so that we can grow. You know, this next statement, putting low-quality gas in a car, it affects long-term performance. You know, we always try to buy the cheapest gas. But you know what can happen if we put low-quality knowledge into our minds? It impacts us for our entire life, folks. We need to put the good stuff in, the high octane, the high quality, you know, empowered words, knowledge, education. We need to teach people to become more self-reliant. That begins with words of empowerment rather than words of entitlement. Boy, we all know people who are like that, don't we? We have to earn. We have to work at this industry. Let's see, high risk to take investment. Boy, some of these statements just slap me. High risk to take investment advice from someone who does not eat unless they sold me something. Wow, and I went, and of course, all of us see that face where somebody gave us investment advice, and they had to do it because they needed to eat. You know, most people don't get their advice from rich people. That's why most investors lose money. And I've been there. I'm first to raise my hand that I've taken advice from the wrong people. And so this is great stuff. The word heist in connection with institutions we trust or we hold sacred, institutions that are at the core of our culture. I didn't even think about these things, folks. So this is real mind-opening if we want to be open. You know, we got to get over that anger thing that he sort of laid out what's been happening in those first 3 chapters. And now he sort of starts hitting you right between the eyes. So why should the ultra-rich and the ultra-powerful work to influence education and leave out financial education? Why should they? I never had training like this in grade school or high school or the little bit of college that I took. We were never educated like that. You know, there was a teacher, John Taylor Gatto, authored 5 books, and I'm going to have to grab some of these books now. One of them, the title of it was Dumbing Us Down. Boy. Another one, The Underground History of American Education. These are things that most of us that just go out and get some kind of an education and get a job never have an idea that that's what happened to us. That's why we've never been able to have great income and make the right choices in our financial education. The purpose of modern education was to take poor people and educate them in ways that would create a large middle class of educated workers, more specifically employees, consumers, and taxpayers. I thought of my one daughter-in-law. You know, she waits till the end of the year. She goes, well, it's okay that they're taking out all that money because then I get a big check at the end of the year. It's not okay. They're not paying you interest on that money. They're only giving back a portion of it, what they feel is fair. And so that's why there's no financial education in schools. They don't want you to realize that the rich and the powerful are making a huge heist. Without financial education, how would an average person know the banks steal their wealth via their savings? And this is another thing I never realized. I'm learning so much just out of this book. This fractional reserve system. I've never heard that word. I dare to say most people have never heard of that. It's the way banks make money. And Robert said it's not pretty. You know, there were lots of graphs and lots of information on how they do this. When people wonder why there's a gap between the rich and everyone else is growing, banks or this fractional reserve system and the lack of financial education in schools where they encourage students to save money. I had no idea that for every $1 we save, the banks can loan $10. That just sounded crazy to me when I read that. One of the quotes, and I don't have who wrote this, but I thought it was pretty impressive, and I wrote it down. Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I don't care who writes the rules. Wow. Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I don't care who writes the rules. I hope that sort of opens your eyes. And then they went into bailouts, or another method of grunge, uses to heist our wealth. There are no accidents. Grunge designed bailouts into the system. And then I thought about some of the bailouts that I've heard about over the years on the news and different things that have gone on, and realized, oh my gosh, that's my tax money doing those bailouts. Bailouts protect grunge. The biggest banks aren't held accountable and do not have to pay for their mistakes. That frustrates me. And so that's why I'm looking to be educated by this second chance book that Robert's written. You know, if you and I make a financial mistake, we suffer the consequences, even to the point of declaring bankruptcy or going to jail or losing everything. Folks, I know all of us know people that lost everything a few years ago. Let's work together to educate people on how to have a great income the remainder of our lives. Thanks, Sandi.
Oh, thanks, Tom, so much for your insight. And I love the word educate. We are educational entrepreneurs. That's really what we are. And most of our focus should be to educate people how to go from the left side of the quadrant as an employee or someone who's self-employed, like you were, like we were, like Tessa was, where we were literally married to our business 24/7, to the right side where the minority are, whether they business owners like us and eventually become investors. That's the key. So I'm picking up on chapter 5, which was quite intensive and very eye-opening, I might add, because Robert is talking about the prophecy and the next crash. And I'm going to skip around a little bit on my slides here, but you know, I think it was Joe that mentioned her dad went through the Great Depression, as my parents did, and that lasted, I didn't even realize it lasted 25 years. So when you look at these dates, he started writing Rich Dad's Prophecy in 1998, and it was published in 2002. And the prophecy is predicting another crash coming soon. Now, to me, that is absolutely horrifying because I thought the last one was terrible. And what you need to say to yourself, if it's true, if it's even remotely true, and it's possible that we're going to have another downturn in the economy, how set are you? Are you safe? Are you protected? Do you have enough money to live on to sustain yourself? I mean, this is really frightening. And with the economic emergency, and it's not just America and Canada, it's literally all over the world. The poor are getting poorer, the middle class is shrinking, and millions of highly educated young people can't find jobs coming out of school, and they're saddled with huge student loans that are never forgiven. And what's interesting, because, you know, I've got grandchildren now, and I keep telling them, you know, it's time now for them to get their first report card. I was talking to my granddaughter last night, and I said, you know, are you going to get all A's, Lily? Are you going to get all A's? I'm so pushing that she should be an A student. And then what Robert says, it doesn't mean that they're smarter than anybody else. It just means in comparison to their classmates, they're doing better. But are they really smarter? And we have a responsibility as parents and grandparents to really help to teach children about managing money because they're sure as heck not going to get it in school. So I wanted to show you this slide, which I obviously took from the book, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This was, I don't even remember the year that Maslow did this, 1943. So I was already present and accounted for in 1943. But it's really amazing how the two bottom levels, these two base levels of physiological and safety are the primary that affect all the rest of the levels. So we must understand our own personal needs. And what he is saying is the majority of people out there, 95% of the people who work for those who own the businesses, 95% of them, when it comes to money or finances or career, they're not self-motivated. All they want to know, do I have a safe, secure job with benefits? And they ask questions like, how much will you pay me if I work for you? What's my bonus going to be? What's my vacation time? When will I get a pay raise? What are my benefits? I mean, that's how 95% of people today think, because that's what they think will give them a better life. You and I and anyone else listening on this call, we walk to the beat of a different drummer because we are unstoppable. We know what is possible. And we also know, and I'm going to quote here, that for many people, the desire for fame, success, and money is so strong. So how strong is your desire? How hungry are you? How badly do you want control? How fed up are you? Are you sick and tired of depending, on others for a wage that you think you're not paid well for? Are you willing? Here it is. Are you willing to do whatever it takes, including sacrifice, to get the job done? Are you willing to do that? Because if you're not willing to do that, then you shouldn't even be on this call. And I saw an article, and I think it came from the New York Times. Yes, it came from the New York Times last year. And what's frightening is the article said the American middle class is no longer the world's richest as of last year. So the whole world economy is upside down, and the United States is in worse shape than ever. And goodness knows what's going to happen, after the election. Oh, God help us all. So here are some other countries where there has been an increase in the median income of middle-class families. You notice who's missing on the list? Well, we're at the bottom anyway. We're there, but in pink. There are other countries that are doing so much better than we are, and our unemployment is so high among educated people. It's crazy. People with such degrees can't get jobs, and it's estimated that 2/3 of the unemployed who have found jobs earn less today than they did a decade ago. I mean, just horrific. So you need to make a choice. If, in fact, this crash is coming, are you willing to do what needs to be done so that you can live life as it should be? Is Robert's prophecy going to come true? I have no clue. I sure hope not. But all the indicators are telling us we better do whatever we need to do, set our hair on fire, and don't even go out and buy a new fire extinguisher. Let it burn and turn up the steam, and let's do what needs to be done over the next 90 days to 6 months so you're set that if this economic crash comes, we're all going to be okay. So based on all of that, I was talking with one of my partners, and I said, here we are. It's the end of October. Is everyone where they really need to be with the holiday season coming? And, in mid-December, people start having a focus on holiday shopping. And, of course, we've got all that solved because we can just shop from our own Zango back office. But do you really have a plan, a specific plan, a massive action plan to close this year so strong that when the first month of, when January 1 comes of 2016, you are absolutely rocking on fire? So we've decided to start and many of you have already responded. You want to be a part of this massive action plan. But you know what, guys? Some tough love here. And I know we're way over time, but this is a mastermind. This is important. This is about a group of like-minded people helping each other get to the next level. So are we okay? Put in the chat room. Are we okay with going on just a couple minutes longer? Okay, I hope so. Otherwise, hang up, because I'm going on for those who want to stay. But the more I was reading Second Chance, the more I was thinking about, as Tessa and everyone was saying, about serving others. I said to myself, what do I need to do? What do Eddie and I and some of you other leaders, like the Ferriers who are on this call, and I'm not sure what other leaders are on here live or maybe listening on a replay, but what can we do to serve others, to help them achieve what we all know is possible? Because this is one business that, quite honestly, anybody can do if you just develop the skills. And as some of you know, I or may not know, I went to the Eric Worre event, the GoPro event. And when Eric was doing some of his teaching, I got to think back. And if you ask Tom and Carol, who were co-hosts on this call, when we first got into Zango, what did we do? We went into massive, massive action. I mean, we all lived on the phone. I mean, we didn't have emails, we didn't have webinars, we didn't have anything. We had a 6-page fax. That was it. But we went into massive action. And if you look at every leader in Zango, every leader, whether it was Jed, who was just on the call Saturday, who in 60 days became a 200K. I don't think that's doable by everybody. I mean, he's got a decade of experience in the business, and he came in with a whole team of people. But the point is, he came in with a massive action plan. And if you look at anybody who gets from an OK to a 1K or a 1K to a 5K, they need to have a massive action plan with certain specific activities that create the desired result. And I'll share with you, that first year when I came into Zango, and I don't know what your numbers were, Tom, but I sponsored 48 people that first year, 48 people over a period of 12 months. So my ratio was 10%. So some people quit, and according to the Direct Selling Association, what is the number now? I think 7 out of 10 people. You get this now? 7 out of 10 people will quit within the first 90 days. Think about that. What happened to their dreams? What happened to the boss they hate? What happened to the fact that they hate their job? You know, in 90 days, they're gone. So you need to have the mindset that you're going to keep bringing people in, educating them with the expectation that they're going to be one of those 7 who are going to quit. You don't put all your hopes and dreams on your next door neighbor or your brother-in-law, who you know could be great at this if he ever got off his tush to do something. So when you have that right mindset that, you know, I sponsored 48 people that first year, that 4 went to work. So my ratio was 10%. Dr. de Guzman, one of my dear friends, he sponsored only 11 that first year, of which 5 went to work. So he had a longer history in network marketing. He had a larger Rolodex. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Rolodexes before database management system, but I had a huge Rolodex. Armando had this black book that he still carries to this day with names, phone numbers, and eventually they got emails in them. But that was his working Bible, and his ratio was obviously a whole lot better than mine. So what do you know your ratio to be? And this massive action plan is not for the faint of heart. It's for people who are going to wake up an hour earlier, go to bed an hour later, disconnect the TV for 30 to 60 days, who are going to be unstoppable to do things that they have not done before. So if you're going to join us, I'm actually going to post the first assignment tonight in our Facebook group. And the link is here, facebook.com/group/mentoring with millionaires mastermind fast track. And if you're not a friend of mine, which is very likely because you're part of my Zango family and I have a separate page for my Zango family, let me know you want to be a part of this massive action plan group, because then I have to send you a Facebook friend request and then I will add you. But we are going to do some smart things. We are going to accomplish some great things if you're up to the task and you're willing to take your business forward. And we're not going to do fancy webinars like this. They're going to be conference calls because I don't want to spend hours doing slides. But I want participation. And it's going to be participation throughout the week. You're going to put notes in there of what you're reading, what you're watching. I'm going to be sending you some training from Eric Worre, some videos. You're going to take notes on that. You're going to have your aha moments. You're going to set some specific, measurable, and actionable goals and action tasks that you are going to stick to every day. And I want you to find a buddy, someone you don't know that's in the group. I don't want you to have your sister or your uncle or your best friend. I want you to grab a buddy that you can be accountable to that's a complete stranger who really doesn't know you very well, but they sure as heck going to find out who you are. So if you want to be a part of this and you're not on my Facebook friend, you need to send me a friend request to facebook.com/Sandi. Sandy's with an I, hopefully you know that, Sandi.Cohen and then the number 2. I'll add you and we'll move on from there. And Bill, I thank you for wanting to be a part of the Massive Action Group. So just to be sure, send me either an instant message or a Facebook friend request, and then I'll be able to add you to the group. And I want to thank all of my co-hosts. They are absolutely amazing. They go to a lot of work to prepare for these calls. And what I'd like to do for November, and it's already posted, the assignment in the book, Second Chance. And I know we're covering a lot in one session, but this is a pretty fat book. I think this has more pages than any other book that Robert Kiyosaki has written. So we've got a lot of chapters to cover over the next 3 or 4 months. So with that said, thank you, my co-hosts. And if it's okay for those of you who have not heard one of my favorite songs, Say Yes to Success, you should be thinking about this. You should be thinking about it. And if you want this to play on your phone while you're in the car driving, send me an email and I can send you the link that you can put into your YouTube video. So hopefully it's going to play. And oh, that's so funny. Jean Marie woke up in the middle of the night singing this song. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to play this song, and with that, we love you all. And let's end 2015 so strong that next year you will all accomplish your next set of goals. So here we go.
Sandy, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here trying to figure out how to shut it off.
Oh, what is the name of the Facebook? Is it still the? It's not the.
I'll send it in an email, okay? I also
All right.
need your phone number, Jean Marie.
Yeah, I sent that.
Okay, good. I'll get it to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, dear.